What an excellent conversation I just had with my dear friend, Melissa Kelley. She helps run the Institute for Entrepreneurship, and I'm so excited for you to hear her insights and wisdom she shares during our conversation. Here's my friend, Melissa. Welcome to Market Mavericks. I'm Matthew Eford. Join me as I speak with leaders who are redefining industries in every corner of the market. From startups to established businesses, we'll uncover the strategies, challenges, and insights that drive success. Get ready to be inspired by the Mavericks who are shaping the future of business. Welcome, everybody, to Market Mavericks. I'm your host, Matthew Eford, and I have my dear friend with me, Melissa Kelley. Melissa is part of the Institute. If you're looking online, you can see my fancy shirt, the Institute for Entrepreneurship, that we are part of here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. It's a mastermind group of business owners who are looking to grow themselves, grow their people, grow their business, and grow their legacy. And Melissa, I'm so excited to have you. For those who don't know you, introduce Melissa. How did you get involved with the Institute? Tell us part of your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working with my partner, Chris Hanks, for about 5 years, building the Institute for Entrepreneurship. Our first program that we developed was the program that you're actually a part of, Matthew, the CEO roundtable, where we have CEOs that come together to support each other in their endeavors and tap into the collective wisdom of the group in order to problem solve and deal with the things that everyday business owners go through.
Okay.
So we started there. We also, in the past few years, have been developing our executive leadership program. So
Okay.
we,
Tell me more.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So our executive leadership program, we work with emerging leaders in businesses. So your key leaders, anyone that you really want to pour into and develop in your organization, we work with them to develop those leadership skills necessary for them to do their role successfully.
Okay.
So that's another thing that we're really proud that we've developed. And now that we've developed those two programs, we're really focusing on student programs as well. So working with middle school, high school, and college age students. And we're really excited about that endeavor that we're going to be starting here this year, actually.
Okay. So that's new this year. Where does that come from? Like, give me some of the backstory. I mean, I can see the mastermind group. I'm a part of it. I see the executive training group, but talk to me more about the student side. Where did that kind of originate from? Tell me more about what you're doing there.
Yeah, sure. So Chris and I both actually, ironically, come from a background in education. So he
Okay.
was a professor at numerous different universities, and I actually served in the public school sector. So I taught middle school for a number of years. And so I think he and I both became aligned on this idea that there's a huge gap between education of children and then when they enter the workforce.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're aware, but actually 93% of business owners define leadership skills and soft skills as essential, even to the entry level jobs.
Wow.
However, less than 16% of students are ever exposed to leadership experiences or structured leadership and soft skills curriculum. So we feel really passionate about putting together curriculum and putting these kids in cohorts and working with them to develop leadership skills and better prepare them for the workforce. So we're doing a lot of work in that regard, and we're hoping that our efforts will make business owners' lives easier, right?
Sure.
Because maybe hopefully you'll have less people problems. Because as we all know, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, your biggest issue as a CEO or business owner is people problems.
Yeah.
So we see that every day. And so that also contributes to our desire to fill this gap because it's a huge problem. You know, we put kids in classrooms to learn math, science, history, and English, but we don't put a lot of emphasis on those basic human skills like communication, problem solving, teamwork. So where do they end up learning those skills? Well, after they enter the workforce. So we want to see a lot more proactivity to developing these kids' skills. So that's the student program.
I love that. Yeah, that's fantastic. So talk me, how is that going to be organized? I mean, I don't know how far down the path you and Chris are. If you can share any of those kind of details, that'd be really cool, just to help inspire parents that are listening to this that have children of their own that may be in the middle school age range that could get involved in this. So What's kind of the program look like?
Yeah, absolutely. We have so many ideas, if you can imagine. Up until this point, we've been working with students one-to-one
Okay,
because we were waiting on our nonprofit status. So as of July, we became a nonprofit. We're super excited about that, and that's going to help us to scale our student programs a lot more. So some of the things that we're in development right now are virtual cohorts. So students after school can meet with us for an hour or whatever it may be to engage in discussions with peers and with us. I'm also developing some project-based curriculum for
okay,
students. So even when they're not with us, there's some kind of project that's challenging them to be better leaders and to also think like an entrepreneur.
sure.
Because entrepreneurs are the trailblazers of leaders. So those types of things. I would love to do in-person sessions. Logistically, that's a challenge that we need to look into and overcome. And then, of course, what I'm super, super excited and we're hoping to launch this summer is camps. So where
Nice.
kids can come overnight and with their peers and learn about leadership and do a variety of activities and really be challenged in a targeted way. So those are a lot of the things that we're thinking about. I also would love to do some competitions where kids can come up with business ideas and really showcase their leadership in whatever field that they're interested in.
I
So those
love
are
that.
some of the things, Matthew, that we're considering. But it's going to be an exciting year because we're moving full speed ahead on developing those programs and getting these kids in here because it's a huge need, I think, in our society. And that gap really affects all aspects of our society,
Sure.
business and relationships. I mean, look at the divorce rate in our country. If we had better communication skills, maybe those types of things wouldn't
Yeah, sure.
happen.
It's a great
So
point.
politics, there's like a number of areas that, if we had stronger soft skills, I think we would be better for it.
Okay. So I love Melissa what y'all are doing. I fully support you and Chris, and I'm so excited to be a part of the institute personally. We've had a lot of institute folks that are members of the CEO group be part of Market Mavericks. That they've shared their wisdom, and a lot of them have talked about you, and they've talked about Chris, and they've talked about things they've learned there. But one thing I love that y'all are both doing is you're taking your some of your background, some of your experiences, and you're continuing to adapt and use that training, use the experiences, use that time and investment that you made in yourself as a teacher, and you're still continuing to invest that in a way in CEOs as well as in the next generation. I love that. So talk to us about, Melissa, how you came to the institute, right? I mean, we love to hear kind of origin stories, startup stories. You're the glue that holds it together, right? I mean, anyone who's around the institute knows that. But talk to us about that kind of early stages because there's so much value we can find in advice that we can pull out of early kind of startups, that kind of idea. So go back 5-6 years ago when you and Chris were talking about you coming on board as a partner in the institute and helping manage the growing institute. Give us that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned, my background was in education. So I taught in the classroom. And, coming out of college and having that degree, I felt so excited to be able to impact kids' lives and to play a small role in that. However, when I got into the classroom, it was a very different thing than I romanticized, I guess, in my
Sure.
head. I saw, a lot of good things, but I also saw a lot of things that I wished were different. And
Okay.
I felt really powerless as just a teacher, very powerless in terms of my impact that I could make. I'm limited to 120 kids a year, and I only get them for an hour a day. So it kind of was on my heart the entire time I was in the classroom that there's more. There's more
Okay.
that I could do to help make an impact on kids and ultimately the bigger society. So I met Chris during 2020, so the whole COVID era. So like a lot of people, like a lot of your viewers, that was a time where I was contemplating the direction of my life.
Sure.
And, having that desire to do more, and what does that look like, and really praying about it, and trying to figure out what direction I should go, because it's very easy to be complacent. It's very easy to say, well, I got the degree, I've got this great job, it pays the bills, and just be happy with that.
Sure.
I'm not one of those people. I always want to push the limit. I always want to untap whatever potential lies within me. And so, ironically, though, during that time, I wasn't actually looking for a job. I was teaching during COVID. I was actually teaching students in China
Okay.
virtually. I was
Yeah. Yeah.
teaching them English, and that was during COVID. So I actually knew about COVID a lot sooner than a lot of Americans
Wow.
did. But I was helping a friend look for a job on Indeed. And I came across an ad that Chris had posted, and it was all about entrepreneurship and on all those things. And it just kind of sparked my interest. It was a part-time position. I was like, hey, we're dealing with this COVID thing. It was a remote position. And so I decided to pursue it. And I've always been interested in entrepreneurship and the opportunities that it affords people. So Chris and I met several times. He shared what he does in the CEO roundtable, which at the time, that was really all that was going on with the Institute.
Sure.
But he also cast a vision for me about the student programs. And so that really put a fire in me, and I was all in at that point. And so from there, we've been grinding and trying to build this thing in order to serve those students. So that's kind of the story of how it all started.
I love that. And I love to see, a lot of people call that a pivot, right? Just in your career that you were at this place of I can make a change. I feel like I want to make a change. This is in some ways a massive change, but in other ways it's not a big change at all. You're still doing what you feel called to do. You're still doing what you're equipped to do. You're just doing it in a new way, in a new capacity. Maybe you may say that in a new arena, but you're crushing it. You both are, and I'm so thankful for the way that the Institute is serving entrepreneurs and now executives and in the very near future students. It's such a cool thing for us to be a legacy that we're leaving here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. So, Melissa, we have a lot of small business owners, solopreneurs, and really even entrepreneurs, kind of what you fell in that 2020 timeframe. What advice would you give to them in taking this leap, taking big steps, taking an uncertain step like this? What advice would you give to them?
Gosh, Matthew, that's a good question. It always comes down to faith, because
Okay.
there's always going to be an element of fear whenever you're walking into the unknown.
Yeah.
But if your faith is strong enough, you can overcome any kind of fear. So that's the biggest thing, which I know is not a great answer, but
No,
it
no, no.
is
It's
the
it's,
best
it's
that I
great. It's
have.
very practical.
Yeah, yeah. So just really focusing on why you're doing what you're doing,
Okay.
and in what you want to happen in your life and in your future. Because I think for most people, and I interact with hundreds, maybe even thousands of CEOs, as you know, executives. I don't believe that most people are motivated by money. Of
Yeah.
course, you need to pay your bills. Of course, you need to take care of your family. But it's purpose. What is your purpose? And that's what you hold on to in those moments of fear.
I
I
love that.
think when people succumb to fear, it's because they've lost sight of that. So I think that would be my best advice.
I love that. What a fantastic piece of advice. Okay, so talk to us about culture, right? That's something that you and Chris, but you yourself have ingrained so much of the culture within the Institute of the family that we've created, and this idea of that we support each other's burdens, that we're there for the betterment of each one of someone else. That if I miss, that other people are lacking, that when they miss, I am lacking, that you're helping drive that culture. So, what advice would you have to a small business owner, an entrepreneur that is looking to build a better culture within the organization? What advice would you have?
Yeah, so I definitely latched on to the concept of we are the average of the 7 people that we spend the most time with.
Okay.
So I think no matter what culture that you're trying to build, you keep that at the forefront. Who is it that is aligned with you, with your vision, with your values, with your ideals? and surround yourself with those people. I think when culture suffers, it's because we've made some kind of we've lowered our standards, I guess, in some
Okay.
way or form.
Yeah.
So, being very crystal clear on who it is that you want to spend your time with, who it is that you want to build something great with, and focus on that. But as we talk about a lot in our group, Matthew, it's all about clarity. And in order to get clarity, you have to give yourself the time and space to make things crystal clear.
Yeah.
It doesn't just come to you, in the middle of putting out a fire. It's very intentional. And it requires a lot of reflection, a lot of collaboration, and talking to other people that are like-minded.
Sure.
So that's why we advocate so strongly for being a part of a peer advisory group. Even if it's not us, please be a part of some kind of group where you're able to interact with like-minded people, because that will help you develop the clarity that you're needing.
Fantastic point. I love you sharing that piece of advice, Melissa. So talk to me about, for yourself, how have you leveraged mentorship? I know that you're growing as a leader, but also talk to us about what you see in the Institute, right? You're in this really unique role that you have your hands in so many businesses, and you see so many different businesses and business leaders, and they're growing and they're developing. Share with us some advice about mentorship, and share maybe some successes that you've seen come out of the Institute and growth that you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. So mentorship to me is not only important professionally, but also personally to me. I grew up in a very low socioeconomic status.
Okay.
So in every way that I've succeeded, there's been a mentor's hand on that.
I love
And so
that.
that's really near and dear to my heart. And I could list for days the people that, just had, one word of positivity, or one move in this direction that they advised me. And so mentorship is so valuable. And in terms of the Institute, that's another area, where we're going to be bridging the gap between these seasoned CEOs and the student programs.
Yeah.
Creating a mentorship program where kids can benefit from the knowledge and wisdom of CEOs. I mean, Matthew, imagine when you were 13, if you had access to our community of CEOs.
Yeah. Be amazing.
How much further would you be in your journey because of that? And so mentorship to me catapults people toward their potential. So that's definitely something that we are going to continue to do in both the CEO roundtable and the student program as well.
I love that.
Yes, yeah, it's great. And then of course, for me, Chris, my partner Chris, has been a huge mentor to me. I'm so grateful for everything that he's poured into me and gotten me to this point where I'm on a podcast with Matthew Eaton. So I've grown so much in the last 5 years. I really am starting to feel like a leader myself, whereas when I first started this journey with Chris, I had major imposter syndrome.
Sure.
I was like, I've never owned a business. Nobody cares what I have to say. I had no voice because I was so insecure about, my wisdom and experiences. I didn't think that it would translate, but it does. It does so well. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback from the community about my contributions. So I guess my advice to anyone out there that is feeling the weight of that imposter syndrome, or feeling like you can't really speak up, just do it, because you'll be surprised how much value that you will add to the people that you're talking to. The experiences that you have are unique to you, and they matter. And so that really, everyone in our CEO roundtable, for example, has unique experiences, and when they are there and they are speaking up, it adds to the collective value of the group.
I love that. And Melissa, I appreciate you sharing that. I know you've shared that with our private CEO group, but I appreciate you sharing that publicly, just about this idea of being an imposter, right? And honestly, if myself included, any business owner is honest with themselves, we all feel that. We do. We walk into rooms and we see people. We walk into our business sometimes and we see problems that are in front of us, and we think, I can't do this. I am not equipped enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't move fast enough. I can't think through this. But I love the encouragement that you've gotten, and the value of a mastermind group. This idea that the Institute provides of like-minded people rubbing shoulders together with a common vision of growing and living with purpose, that we can see things from a different perspective, right? I love C.S. Lewis personally. He's more faith-based, and I've never made this connection until right now. But he has this fantastic book called The Four Loves, and it's this idea of community. And he talks about this, him and three of his friends, so four friends that would meet on a regular basis. And one of them passed away, and he wrote something very profound. He said, "I'm going to miss the way that my friend Bill made Dan laugh. And I'm going to miss the way that Bill made me think about the world," right? This idea that other people's perspectives help to shape us and help to inform us and help to grow us. That this idea of being an imposter, no, we all have a story. We all have experiences. We all have something valuable to bring, definitely yourself. And so I'm thankful that you have you're continuing to work through that, right? And I'm so thankful that you're sharing that publicly, but also that you're continuing to bring value, because you're making the Institute better. I hopefully am making the Institute better. All of us are making the Institute better, that we're bringing that perspective of different points of view into a situation, that, like when we do issue processing, right? We can shoot holes in an issue and get to the core thing, that we think we have one problem, but we actually have a total different problem. And it's because of the process that we go through in that group. So I just wanted to make sure I shared that. I appreciate you sharing about. So talk to us, Melissa, about what you're doing in the Institute. Obviously, you are mentoring in the executive program. So give us some advice for a entrepreneur that is saying, "Hey, I want to mentor." Maybe not a student. Maybe I don't feel like I have time to mentor a student, but I have a younger employee and I really want to start mentoring them. What advice would you have to that entrepreneur who's kind of listening to this saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our executive program, it has been incredible. It's really given those leaders a safe space to learn and grow, and learn not only from us but from the people that are in that group. In terms of an entrepreneur that's wanting to develop their leader themselves, the advice that I would give is to give grace, because learning how to be a leader is not easy. Especially with that gap that I talked about at the beginning. You know, we went all our years of education not really getting exposure to those types of skills. So when they come to you as an entry-level employee or even a college graduate, they are already lacking some of those essential skills. So definitely give some grace, and then provide them with opportunities to ask questions in a safe way, where they're not going to be attacked for asking a question.
Sure.
So questions and grace. And then also, I would say be vulnerable with them and have conversations with them that maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable for you as the business owner or the CEO of the company. But it's those connections that really enable people to open up. And that's where the growth happens. Growth happens when you're uncomfortable.
Yeah. Amen.
When you're comfortable, you remain stagnant. And like I said earlier, complacent with where you are. And that's not what we want for our employees. It's not what we want for ourselves, right? We should always aspire to grow and untap the potential that lies within each of us.
Yeah.
And it's a huge burden, but also a huge honor as an entrepreneur or a business owner to be able to do that with the people that we're leading. Be a good steward of that potential that we all have. So that's kind of what my advice would be in terms of mentoring.
I love that. I love that. I think that's fantastic advice, and I love this idea of being able to extend grace. You know, that no one's perfect, no one's made it, but definitely take the perspective of, I'm here to help encourage them and to challenge them, knowing that they're going to fail along the way. And being okay with that, and creating the environment that they're okay with that, one of the things that we try to tell within our organization is, I know you're going to make mistakes. I just don't want us to make them again. So let's learn. It is okay to make mistakes, especially as we're pursuing a big goal. We may not reach it. We may have this BHAG, big hairy audacious goal that we're going after in terms of new customer signups. Okay, and we fell short this year. Instead of a failure, it's okay. We got 95% of the way there. Let's celebrate that, number one. And then let's look at that 5% gap. There's a great book, Gap in the Game, that this is kind of referencing. But it's this idea of how can we continue to pursue to get a little bit better. Melissa, one thing that you said that I love that you demonstrate, even on this podcast, but definitely in the Institute, is this idea of vulnerability, right? Is as leaders, it is so easy for us to put forward this facade of everything's perfect, everything's okay. I'm just stable, and not that we want to be a emotional wreck, right? That we have to provide some stability to our team, but this idea of vulnerability, what actually happens is it leads to trust on your team. It doesn't pull people away, it pulls them in. And so being able to share with them in a vulnerable way, as you have demonstrated so many times in leading within the Institute, it just draws people in, and it allows for a safe place for people to share and to grow and to learn and to get a little uncomfortable, because like you said, that's where growth happens.
Yeah, and I want to speak a little bit more to that. So, very early on when I met Chris, he asked me a question that really, it really meant a lot to me, and it stuck with me. And it was something along the lines of, "Do you want to impress, or do you want to impact?"
Yeah.
And that
Wow.
was like a game-changing moment for me. And I was
Sure.
like, I want to impact. And and bringing it back to my time in the classroom, relating to my time in the classroom with you as a business owner, you have to ask yourself, do you just want your employees to clock in, work, and get their paycheck and leave?
Yeah.
Or do you really want to make an impact on them? I didn't want my students to come into the classroom, sit down, do their work, and then leave and never think about it again.
Sure.
I wanted them to feel connected, to be a part of a community, because again, that's where the growth happens. If you don't have that, they're not growing, I promise you. They're not learning. Speaking back to the students, they're not learning. They're going to forget everything that you said as soon as they walk out of your classroom. And I don't think that's what most business owners want. I think you want to not only build and scale a business, but you want your people to be a part of something and really feel that connection to it.
I love that.
Powerful.
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic piece. Melissa, if you could get a book in the hands of every business owner, what is a book that you would give them?
I'm guessing nonfiction, because that's a tough question, because I am
No,
an English
fiction's
major.
fiction's
So there's
fine.
so many books that I would want to share. But in terms of nonfiction, recently, Atomic Habits is a great book. I know that
Yeah.
that's cliche. A lot of people say that, but I think that's
Sure.
a
No, it's a great one.
wonderful book. It really gets you thinking about how you're spending time, how you're organizing your schedule. What are you doing that's a flywheel in your life, and is it a positive thing, or should you change it?
Yeah.
So that book was incredible. I read that last year. I should have read it much sooner, because you guys have been talking about it in the group for years, and I never got around, because I'm a sucker for fiction. That's where I spend most of my reading.
That's okay.
But I love Atomic Habits, and gosh, there's just so many to choose from. But that would be probably my top.
Cool. I will definitely make sure that's in the show notes. That is a fantastic book, and I'm glad that you brought it up. So, a couple of things as we kind of close out our time. Thank you again, Melissa, for sharing. Thank you for the impact you're having in my family, in my business, in my organization, in my employees' lives, and all the organizations that are associated with the Institute, all the executives that are being trained, and newly all the students. So, thank you for the impact that you're having. Let's talk about a commitment, right? Our mutual friend Chris Hanks is the one that challenged me early on in the podcast to get out of the idea of just goals, right? That goals are can be more flippant, but it's this idea of a commitment that is a little bit stronger, of a determination of, I'm committed to doing this. So, Melissa, what is a commitment that you have in this year for the Institute?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I do want to share that we do focus on, we call it our priorities. So at the Institute, we do one priority for your business, your people, yourself, and your legacy. So we kind of stick to those 4 buckets. And the idea behind that is if you have 6 priorities, you don't really have a priority,
Sure.
right? So we challenge people to think of what's the one thing that can make the biggest change, the biggest impact. So in terms of my commitment for the Institute this year, again, it goes back to those student programs. We have got to invest in the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs. We really do. I mean, they are working at a deficit coming into college and into the workforce. And so we have to address that gap. So my commitment this year is to build those student programs and to educate business owners and other people about this gap and about the work that we're really trying to do at the Institute with these kids. I'm going to be fundraising for the nonprofits to support those programs like the camps and the cohorts and things that we have planned.
Sure.
I'm going to be seeking out partnerships with, school, anything from schools to businesses, whatever it takes to get these kids to a place where they're actually prepared for the workforce, and not just prepared, but where they will excel far beyond their peers because they've been exposed to this valuable skill set.
I love that. I think it's a fantastic commitment. I look forward to seeing that come to fruition this year. So, Melissa, last question I love to kind of get to is, what's a piece of advice, if you could go back 10 years ago, talk to younger Melissa, what's a piece of advice you would give her?
Gosh, 10 years ago, my advice to younger Melissa would be that you can do anything, and that no one can hold you back if you stay focused on what your priorities are and what your mission in life is. And don't let anyone else write your story. You're the author.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. Okay, so Melissa, thank you for sharing. If somebody's interested in knowing more about the Institute, they're a CEO and they're looking for a cohort of other high-performing CEOs to grow and learn with, or they have an executive, or they are an executive looking to get mentored, or if they're wanting to know more about the student program, how do they get in touch with you? Just a caveat, don't expect you to give out your cell phone number, please don't. But how do they get connected to you in the Institute?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can email me, which, Matthew, if you could put my email in the notes,
I can share that in the notes.
You can also contact us through our website, www.instituteforentre.com. There's a contact form on there, so you're welcome to use that. But of course, emailing me directly would be the most efficient way. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has, and we would love to talk to you about our roundtable program, our executive program, or our student programs.
That's fantastic. Well, Melissa, thank you again for sharing. Thank you, everybody, for following along with us here at Market Mavericks. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Market Mavericks. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to take your own adventure to the next level. Don't forget to follow the show to keep up with our latest episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe, share it with others who could benefit. And hey, if you know a market maverick who has a story that needs to be heard, please drop their name in the comments. We would love to bring their insights to the show. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and leading with purpose.